Yes, everyone, welcome back to Flat Cap Euro Talk here, and we're doing a quick scout report on Weston Mckennie again. We've done this guy before because Fabio Paratici is a big fan of his. So here's kind of a bit of a recap. Here's kind of a bit of a refresher on kind of my thoughts on Weston Mckennie and maybe some things you probably ought to know about the guy. But let's get straight into it here, everybody. Of course, we like to cover that background nice and quick. Born in Texas, always good to see a Texan midfielder out in Europe. 24 years of age, turns 25 pretty, in a while, you could say. Center midfielder, bit of a box to box midfielder. I wouldn't really call him a DM or a defensive midfielder. Of course, the guy likes to get stuck in, but I wouldn't exactly say he's similar to like a Højbjerg or a Bentancur of any type. I think more of a box to box midfielder, even maybe a bit of a cam, you could say, from time to time. 6 feet 1 inches, 1.85 meters tall. According to Transfermarkt right now, he's valued around 21 million euros. I'm not too sure about that. I think it's probably a bit more. Maybe could be around 20, 25 million, maybe 30 million. You never know what you could pay for players these days. But we do have that inside sort of track on Juventus via the likes of Fabio Paratici. So who knows? It might cook up a good deal for us. In the 21-22 season, being last season, I believe that was his debut season. He had 4 goals and 0 assists. 2022-23, which is currently this season, of course. 3 goals and 1 assist so far. So obviously showing a much better kind of output. And maybe it just took him a while to settle in over at Juventus. And considering he'd been playing, I believe, for Andrea Pirlo and as well as Massimiliano Allegri, not easy coaches to be working under, I would say. So can't criticize him too much. Let's maybe get a bit into the stats as we like to do, though, everybody. And let's take a look at his stats. And these, of course, as we always like to do, are from FB Rep, and we are going to FB Ref, and we're going to be kind of comparing him to all other midfielders across Europe's top 5 leagues, everybody. So when we look at his shots total per 90, he's taking around 1 there, and it puts him in like the top 37th percentile there, which isn't pretty, isn't great, sort of average. But considering the goals that I think Weston Mckennie does score, maybe he doesn't take too many shots, but he is able to bury them and probably has a better conversion rate, if I'm not mistaken, than the average player. Shot creating dribbles, which is sort of kind of connected to his shot creating action. It means he just creates chances with his own 2 feet by just skinning past a man. He's quite good at that in the top 9 percentile in Europe of all midfielders there. Touches in the attacking penalty area. This is where it shows that he's that box to box midfielder, right? Where he's getting nearly 3 touches in there per 90 this season. He's also in the top 5 percentile of all midfielders when it comes to that metric. So that is proven, I think, that he is sort of that box to box midfielder, the guy that does like to score, does like to kind of get up and down. Successful dribble percentage, quite high there. Progressive passes received, which is pretty much any pass forwards, I believe, of like 5 or 10 yards or more, means that he could play probably as a bit of a creative midfielder. I kind of picked that stat out for that reason, just to show that while he may be sort of seen as maybe a bit deeper, right? Like the box to box midfielder, he could technically play, I think, as sort of a creative midfielder of sorts. We'll get into later maybe his passing stats, but the fact that he is able to sort of pick up a lot of progressive passes does maybe mean he could play a bit higher up the pitch, let's say. And then blocks just kind of evident of how he does like to get stuck in. If we kind of compare him, though, to maybe the likes of the Højbjerg and Bentancur and those sort of players at Spurs. We can see, though, that Højbjerg and Bentancur, of course, are having absolutely fabulous seasons. They really are playing out of their skin at the moment. So it's almost unfair maybe to compare them to Mckennie, but it also then does make you think, right? Is maybe a guy like Mckennie surplus to needs at the moment? Is he even the right player that we should be looking after? Because a lot of maybe stats that Højbjerg and Bentancur probably normally in other seasons wouldn't be doing so well, and they're actually doing fabulously at the moment. And of course, they're coming up with the goals and the assists that maybe others probably thought they wouldn't have, and they are actually outperforming these sort of goal scoring midfielders, kind of like a Weston Mckennie. So it kind of does make me pause and think, like, what would he bring? What does he maybe have that maybe a Højbjerg and a Bentancur don't have? And I think it is sort of that knack to score, that ability to get up and down. He is, I think, a bit more forward thinking than those two, but it's tough right now because it then starts to make you think that you're probably looking at certain areas of the pitch that maybe you're sort of kind of satisfied in right now, or at least you don't need to address right away. So I'm sort of kind of thinking that with how much maybe a guy like Højbjerg is dominating the likes of Mckennie and some of these stats, and also just with our own 2 eyes, let's be honest, he's been having a fabulous season, Højbjerg and Bentancur, and probably a better season than Weston McKennie really have been having, the two. So it does make you think, like, what would Weston McKennie bring that would probably displace Højbjerg, or at least, right, bring him into that starting 11, let's say ahead of a Bentancur or Højbjerg, or even, switch things up and make the 3-5-2 more effective. Is Weston McKennie the guy? It's tough. It's tough. But from what you can tell right here, the stats don't really, favor him too much in a lot of departments that would sort of help out with that creative midfielder. His passing stats aren't great compared to Højbjerg. I think Højbjerg gets kind of slacked off a bit too much when it comes to his passing, especially considering he's one of the best passers of like defensive midfielders in Europe this season. His through ball numbers per 90, I think he's already played like 6 or 7 through balls this season completed, which is like kind of De Bruyne-esque numbers right now. He's playing absolutely out of his mind. Passes into the penalty area is even higher than McKennie. You look at even players dribble pass, he's higher than McKennie. A bit kind of concerning there that Højbjerg, let's say, is beating McKennie in certain metrics that maybe, I don't know, he shouldn't have. But also, again, McKennie's playing for a guy like Allegri, not easy over there, and they're not playing very great at the moment. But Bentancur is just having an absolute boss of a season, creating more chances, playing more through balls per 90, more passes into the penalty area. He's dribbling past more players. We all know he's absolutely lovely on the ball, but something Bentancur isn't getting enough credit for is he's getting really stuck in more often this season. He's getting nearly 4 tackles and interceptions there, which is actually more than Højbjerg. So they've sort of kind of replaced each other. Højbjerg maybe a bit better in some of the passing areas, whereas someone like Bentancur has been absolutely tearing it apart in the defensive end. Also, we all know he's absolutely lovely on the ball, but just sort of kind of seeing there with how much Bentancur and the likes of Højbjerg kind of outshine McKennie, does that make you think that he is the right option for it? I feel like I wouldn't say no to McKennie. I think he's a brilliant player. I really like what he's all about. He offers a lot of energy, really kind of has that Conte mindset, I think, as well. In fact, he's really driven, really kind of fiery as well. I think Conte would like a lot about McKennie. But if we're really going for a creative midfielder that can sort of pick apart a team, be able to play those passes, be a bit of a genius, let's say, on the ball, I don't know if it's McKennie. I think he's a bit more of that goal scoring box to box midfielder, which might be a bit surplus to needs. But you could also find a workaround with that. Maybe you already have other players in the team that can play that pass. You just need that extra midfielder that can surge forward and be a threat going forward. And I think McKennie does offer a good threat going forward. Someone, if I were to maybe compare to, that I'd probably rather have, if I were to pick amongst the Americans, I'd actually rather have Yunus Musa. And just to kind of prove it that I am a big fan of Yunus Musa as maybe more of a creative midfielder, let's say, for Spurs. Again, he wouldn't really be my number one choice, Yunus Musa. But if I had to actually pick between 2 Americans to pick from over at Spurs, I'd actually probably take Yunus Musa maybe instead at this moment in time. I think he probably fit what we maybe need. He could probably play more positions, maybe get into the team in other areas more so than McKennie. I think McKennie just has a lot of competition right now amongst players at Spurs. So I'm not sure how quickly he gets into the team. And so if I were to actually pick somebody, I'd go after Yunus Musa. And so just to prove that, just because I think people do maybe take credit for things maybe they don't say, here's proof that I did say it, that I would take Yunus Musa back in July by the looks of things, is when I would take it. When the lovely Matt Hayes asked us, which 5 European players would you take from Europe's top 5 leagues? And I said Eberiche Eze as a cam, Benoit Badiashile as a left-sided center back, Yunus Musa as a bit of a hybrid cam or creative midfielder slash kind of winger. I mean, he plays all over, Yunus Musa. I just want the guy. Sergei Milinkovic-Savic, of course, and then as a right wing back, Ridley Baku. There you are, everybody. That is the end of the scout report when it comes to the likes of Weston McKennie. Obviously, this is a bit of a refresher. From what you can probably tell, I enjoy him. I think he's a great player, but I don't know if I'd probably take him at this moment in time. I think he is probably a bit surplus to needs, not exactly where we should be putting our attention. An amazing player, don't get me wrong, a great player. But I feel like we're sort of kind of, I don't know, we seem kind of satisfied in that department at the moment in time, especially with how well Bentancur and Højbjerg have been playing. So would we really change everything up to bring in Weston McKennie? I'm not sure. Is he okay with sort of sitting on the bench and kind of being brought on as sort of that 3-5-2 sort of option? Maybe. I just feel like there are also better, maybe more creative midfielder kind of options out there, but we'll get into that later with future scout reports. As always, everybody, please hit that like button on your way out, and I will be seeing you.